Good afternoon, everyone. Hello from Trinidad. It's really a pleasure to be here, and we had a lovely drive down to Berbice. You have such a beautiful country, and I'm really glad to see so many nurses here today. So in addition to working with the Psychological Association, I work at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex. It's one of our public hospitals in Trinidad, and 2 years ago, they opened the psychiatric ward at our hospital. And our trainees then got an opportunity to do a lot of inpatient interventions. But the relationship with the nurses was critical, because we know we're coming into your space. We come in a few hours a day, but we know that's your space 24 hours. And that relationship was important, because we had nurses who would point out patients and say, Maya, come, I think I need you to go and talk, do some therapy with this person. And so that synergy, we introduced, so we're doing some bedside therapy, and it's bedside because we have no rooms, but we're gonna make do with what we have. We're doing adult coloring, we're doing social skills group training. We sit in with the nurses in their group interventions, and the nurses sit in with us. So it's been a really good relationship. And I hope with UG's program being developed in Guyana that you get to enjoy some of those relationships as well. So jumping straight into, Kester, thank you. So we're talking about cultural competence. And as I said yesterday, cultural competence is like a good marriage. Right? We need the two of them to be strong and healthy together. So on one side, we have cultural validity, and on the other side, we have clinical competence. So each of them in their own right are worthy and valid, but we need them together to be truly effective. So when we talk about cultural competence, what are we talking about? So in my title, I spoke about delivering psychological services. But this is not just for psychologists. This is for anybody who's working in the mental health sector. You can be more culturally competent. So for example, understanding how does the role of culture and ethnicity impact either the service you deliver, the kind of patients you see. I presume you see Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, people from the First Peoples community, and more diversity than that. So does it matter? Do you see traits in some than others? Do you start to see patterns? Does it require you now to reflect, well, how are they engaged in the services? What about their help-seeking behavior? Some people more likely to come, and some people won't come, or their families have to drag them. What socioeconomic and political factors? We can't just immerse ourselves in a little bubble. We know that these bigger macro factors affect how people function. If you don't have a job, and if you have to worry about where your next meal is coming from and how you're going to provide for your children, that's going to exacerbate your mental health. We can't ignore that. And finally, so as I was saying, what are the implications for that for treatment? How does that affect it, and how then can we tailor the things we do to make it more effective? So cultural competence, we could talk about this all day, but it's Friday evening, right? So I'm just going to focus on one sector of the population, one group, and that's East Indians. So one of my colleagues, one of the psychiatrists in Trinidad, Professor Jared Hutchinson, he's done some work on looking at rates of suicide and the means that people use. And so what they found was that for some of the East Indians who committed suicide by poisoning, the main reasons were family conflict and relationship issues. Right? So you've heard, I don't need to tell you about the ethnic disparity that exists here as well. But I want you to do is not just, yes, go read the Trinidad research. We want to encourage you to start doing your own research, start collecting your own data. The data I collect is the nurses that help us collect it. It's your logbooks we come to and we say, right. And when you keep the good logbooks, that makes our job a lot easier. So what is going on with East Indians? Is it in the genes? Is it in the curry, the roti? What's really going on? So we need to find out. So we've been looking, there are a number of different factors. So is it the coping? One of the things we collected some data on were the first year of inpatients we had at the hospital. And we realized that 95% of the attempters, because if they've made it to hospital, the attempt, they didn't manage to complete, thank goodness. 95 of those were impulsive. They didn't have a plan, they didn't write a letter, they didn't say goodbye to nobody. It was impulsive. And the major reason, again, were interpersonal conflicts, So either with the family or your boyfriend, in your breakup, etc. And they were young, 18 to 24. So we're seeing that there's something about this now that's speaking to their coping skills. Now, are the people who attempt different from the people who complete? That's more research we need to do. So I have another student who's doing some research there, in fact, working with Professor Hutchinson for this, and we're going to compare the groups. Is it that the attempters were using less lethal means? The majority that I looked at, it was actually their medicine, their prescription medication they were using to overdose, and pain medication. So yeah, ibuprofen, paracetamol, etc. So we need that data. We need to start collecting it, and you need to start collecting it in Guyana so we can figure out more about your story. So we heard about Gramazone. A friend here in biodiversity was asking about Gramazone. In Trinidad, we have another name for it, Indian tonic. And just so, and that's the thing, I've grown up hearing that all the time. And we laugh about it because it's funny, but it's a serious thing. So it's been captured. They sing about it, they write about it in short stories. It's made it into a dictionary of Trinidadian Creole language. And why is it? It's because it's been known. It's associated with it. You just have to say Indian tonic and people know you mean Gramazone. There's, however, there's a reason as well. What they found when they looked at the geographical distribution of suicides where they've used Gramazone, it corresponds to the agricultural belt. And Trinidad, our history is such that most of the East Indians were brought here to the country and they were engaged in farming. So my maternal grandparents, sugarcane farmers, rice farmers. And so Gramazone, they use it in their daily lives, they're familiar with it, they have access to it. Before I move on, if you just go back, because I forgot to mention this yesterday, another thing that's coming up with the Gramazone. So it's one of the more lethal means. It's a very painful way, but not everybody completes. So some people survive. And right now I'm seeing a client who, so the referral came from the psychiatrist. She said she has memory problems. So I did the neuropsychological assessment on her, and we are seeing a pattern of impairment that's consistent with the dementia. But she's a young woman. She's young and she's healthy. Some early signs of pulmonary fibrosis, because the poison also affects you medically, but she has had a long history of mental illness, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, and she's had multiple suicide attempts, including some serious attempts with Gramazone. So one thing that Gramazone does as well is it can cause cognitive impairment. It can cause a dementia. So I met with her last week. I'm meeting with her again when I go back, because now here are some consequences that we are seeing that we might not pick up. All right? So we want to write it up as a case study. We need to get toxicology involved to prepare that. But here we're now seeing more implications for this situation. So the question is, what's going on with the East Indians? So can we maybe look, can we rule out the curry, not blame the curry? At Kanpa, we're having curry for dinner, so I hope it's not. So let's look at the culture and see, let's go back. Let's go way back. Let's start with some of the philosophy. So the Ramayana is a epic poem. So most people, if you have never heard of it, you know about Diwali? Right, so Diwali is the end of that story when Ram has been successful. So it's the darkest night in the year, and we light diyas to light his path down. We're celebrating the triumph of good over evil. And the evil is the evil Lord Ravan. He kidnapped his wife Sita. And so Ram went off and he got this army of his monkey army to go and rescue her. But there were times when he was criticized. And so we see in the Ramayana, Lord Rama talks about taking his own life. He contemplated it. On his journeys, he met Lord Hanuman, the monkey god. And Hanuman became his devotee. And Hanuman, at times when he failed to rescue Sita, Hanuman and all think, well, I didn't do my job, I should end it. In the Mahabharata, which is another classic element of Indian culture, Lord Arjuna wanted to contemplated suicide when he lost his son in war, and Lord Krishna had to talk him out of it. So we've seen some of these themes. There are other themes, of course, but these are some of the themes that show that here we have it being considered. Now, why is that? Is it because In Hinduism, reincarnation is one of their beliefs, so that your attitudes about this life and afterlife are different. We have to start thinking about these things. But this was written eons ago. We say it matters now. Well, let's look at some contemporary examples of culture. So any chutney fans in the house? So I heard this song, Ram Singh Sharma has been playing on radio here. Yes. So the thing about it is we can't go around. It's going to take me ages to go around to everybody and find out your views on different things. So culture like this, you take the popular music and we examine it, we can get a little snapshot about how society thinks about things. So that song, Ram Singh Sharma, the village ram from Sawa, right? He have a wife and he there with the sister, he boldface, huh? And they buy them motor car, buy them visa, taking them to Canada. So in the song, the singer talks about how this village ram, he getting all the girls and he can't get no girls. But this song doesn't have any resolution. It's just bigging up the village ram and you there with no girl in your corner. Yeah. Last year he had a big hit too called Balkisoon. And Balkisoon is a DJ. Balkisoon pull a tune in a wedding. And you run away with the dullahin. So the dullahin is the Indian bride. So here Balkisoon going around to all these weddings, playing his songs and stealing the brides. The other two verses, he went down Labre in South Trinidad and steal the pastor wife. And then he went somewhere else and steal the pundit wife. But again, this song doesn't end with any resolution. Nobody in both Balkisoon, nobody in stop hiring Balkisoon. It just ends like that. So this movie, Devdas, it's 3.5 hours long. I know you probably haven't seen it, but it's one of the most popular Indian movies. It's been incredibly successful. It's won tons of awards. But the theme of it, so I thought it was a love story. I sat down one day to watch this thing. My friend said, you have to watch this movie. But at the end, I was so frustrated. It's very tragic. The ending is very sad and miserable. I won't spoil it in case one day you want to sit down and watch it. But again, I was seeing these themes, and it's a theme that's kind of related to a point called fatalism, where you feel powerless to do anything. Things are just happening around you, and you feel powerless to do something about it. So let's start to look at that. Are we seeing that now in our youth, in how they think about things? So, yeah. So, what can psychology do? Well, apart from these themes we're hearing about hopelessness, there are many other factors. We've heard about impulsivity. We've heard about perfectionism. So if you do something and you don't quite do it the way you want to, it affects you. So with psychology, with research, we can look at some of those own things. So are we seeing different traits in different populations, and that can explain why they behave the way they do? Yes. All right. We talk about suicide having a contagion effect, that when we report it in the newspaper, we see an increase. So that effect is well known, but they've discovered another effect, which is when we start to talk about alternatives, it has a positive effect. But that's not going to make headlines. The postcards and the effects are not going to make headlines, so we have to do it in the circles where we work in to encourage people. So in the different interventions we do, so last year we teamed up with the Nurses for Mental Health Day and we did a booth. This year we teamed up with an NGO called Full Stop, a bunch of young people who want to promote suicide awareness. Now normally we hold talks like this. At the university we invite people, you have to register. But you think we're going to get the average man in the street? Not all the time. So we did set up at the front of the hospital and we caught people as they were going about their business. And we asked them just to have a 5-minute conversation about suicide and suicide awareness. So we got the lady from the canteen, the security guard stopped, just people as they were going about their business. We also asked them to write letters. So we heard Carol talk about postcards and notes. We asked them to write notes of support. That if someone you knew, someone you cared about was thinking about suicide, what would you tell them? And so we had a tech-savvy young person translate these notes and make them into memes so we could share them on social media. But this is one, that you are worth it, you are important, you are loved. So what we liked about that intervention is we were showing people that you, the average person, you have some agency, you have some power, you can do something. It's not just the professionals who went to university or the nurses who went to nursing school, that everybody within us can make a change. So knowledge and familiarity with culture is not enough. You look Afro-Guyanese to me, I'm Indo-Trinidadian, but that doesn't give us automatic cultural competency. We have to learn about it, think about it, reflect on it. That competency has to come a certain way. So I see one male nurse in the crowd. Yes, representing. All right. So we also need a fair distribution. So it's good that I see a male here. Maybe sometimes you might connect more to a young man than maybe somebody else. So we need that as well. But each of us needs to invest some effort in finding out more. Psychology helps us with that. And when it comes to psychology, the training and the supervision is really important. So finally, I'll leave you with some words of another Caribbean icon, Marcus Garvey. People without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. And one thing Guyana has is a lot of amazing, beautiful trees. You're known for your wood and lumber. So this is a tree at the UG campus in Georgetown. I'm sure you all have amazing trees in Berbice as well. So for the work that we do, it has to spread out to where we are needed, but the roots now need to be grounded in a foundation of cultural validity. Thank you.